All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching the special coverage of the Independence Day right here on Trust TV, and we're reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya. We'll be taking you for the next 1 hour, taking a look at some of the issues, state of the nation, as a matter of fact, on this special day.
And I'm Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you very much for staying with us. Ayuba, good morning and happy Independence.
Good morning,
so before the end of the first band, Abdullahi said something about the color of the attire that I'm wearing. I know it's supposed to be green and white, which is the color of the Nigerian flag. I'm adorning green, but I don't know whether what Abdullahi is wearing was actually white, because it seemed like off-white to me. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So the thing is, what makes Nigeria Nigeria is the diversity, isn't it? So as it is with green as well, there are different shades of green, right?
Yeah,
so, it's not out of place to say that we are a people of different colors. We are a country that wear coats of many colors. So I still think that it's in place. Whatever shades of green you're wearing, you are still a Nigerian, or white you're wearing, you are still a Nigerian, and you're still a patriotic one for that day, for that matter. So, yeah.
Of course. The conversation continues. And, of course, on this segment, we'll be taking a look at what the papers are saying. But before then, let's take this report. Trust TV's Khadijat Bowers reports that amidst celebrations of Nigeria's independence, women in Tudun Muntira Karmajiji community in Abuja do not have access to social amenities and business prospects. Here's a report.
With population growth, Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, became too crowded. The political class began agitating for an administrative capital in a centralized location closer to the
When everybody is included, everybody wins. When everybody, that is my mantra, when everybody is included, everybody wins. Because the same opportunity that is given to a woman with disability is given to a woman with a disability. What if one of the best ministers we have is a woman sitting on a wheelchair and she's been disenfranchised?
The community is made up of a diverse set of people, most of whom have fled insurgency in Nigeria's northwest. Women in this part of the world are often disadvantaged in terms of cultural attitude towards women's roles in society, education, and earning a living. Salima Hamisu, a 26-year-old native of Goza town in Borno, is a food seller. She believes Nigerians' independence should be a happy celebration for all. That is why she is calling on government to focus more on the plight of women.
Gashi nan muna murna, muna farin ciki, sai dai matsalolin da muke cikinta yanzu shine muke neman gwamnati ta taimaka mana, ta mana gyaran wasu matsalolin da muke ciki. Ga yanzu muna dan sana'an mu hakan nan, sana'an da muke kuma gaskiya ba yanayin kuɗi a Najeriya da wannan muna cikin matsaloli da yawa. Muna neman gwamnati ta taimaka mana, matasanmu da sauran mata hakan nan.
Umar Abdul, a 26-year-old trader, echoed his feelings, stressing the importance of government support for empowering women and small businesses. He further expressed his love for Nigeria and highlighted that no matter where they go, Nigerians always have a deep attachment to their homeland.
Ga iyayenmu mata da yayyenmu suna zuwa, wasu gudun shijira ne, wasu daga wasu garuruwan suna zuwa. To mafi gaskiya dai abun da yana kosin sosai shine matsalan man fetur. Yanzu wanda ma suke yin abinci a nan zaka wasu sun rurrufe, wani maganan ya siyo shinkafan tsada yayi mai. Muna farin ciki Najeriya ta cika shekara 64 samun yancin kai, muna farin ciki sosai.
Many women in the community do not have access to quality healthcare and education. Lack of financial resources, inadequate infrastructure, and gender disparities compound the situation. Despite all these challenges, Women like Sarah Jatto, a hairdresser, and Elizabeth Agbo, a mother of 4, remain optimistic and hopeful for a better future.
I'm happy because today is Nigeria independence. So why I'm talking like this, I just want Nigeria to help us so that everything will be okay. Because now we can't be able to buy anything again. Things are cost. We cannot buy materials. Look at the things that I'm doing. They cannot buy it where? Now they are buying it 3,000 naira. Okay, 3,000 naira. How am I going to buy material?
Independent Nigeria. We thank God for today. We need help. Like nothing flow for us. Everything very cost. May God come help us. We need many things, but especially we are hungry.
As Nigeria celebrates independence, the plight of the marginalized and the friends of society is cause for concern. They can only hope for an inclusive government. Empowering women by improving access to social amenities and business opportunities is vital for the progress of the nation. More can be done by government actors and civil society to build a more equitable and prosperous future for citizens, particularly those in marginalized communities like Tudumunzira in Kermajiji. Khadija Bowers, Trust TV News.
Thank you so much, Khadija, for that report. Now, like we said earlier, the state of the nation is what we'll be discussing, and we're joined in the studio by Baba Yusuf, a strategist, policy analyst, and CEO, Global Investment and Trade Company. And no better way to have a sense of what's happening in the nation than to take a look at the newspapers. So we'll start with the Daily Trust newspaper and also go into other papers as well, basically looking at the headlines on the front pages. Now, the first story here, talking about the lead story, the big story on Daily Trust this morning, talks about the 2023 presidential election. It says, no apology for backing a northern candidate. That's according to the former chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Abdullahi Adamu. And also it has the riders that says, I didn't float Ahmad Lawan's candidacy alone. Why I resigned as APC chairman. So you'd find all the details on that on page 5, 6, and 10. We also have that on our program Reminiscences that aired yesterday, so you can do well also by going to our YouTube channel if you want to watch. Another story below that, Nigeria at 63. Tinubu declares additional 25,000 naira pay for low-grade workers on page 4. Adds 15 million vulnerable households to cash transfer programs. Says report on CBN probe for submission soon. Announces end to powerful, wealthy, favored monetary policy. You also have below that, mother apprehends suspect who abducted, killed daughter in Zaria. Erratic rainfall. Farmers decry losses as Northeast governors fear low yield. And that's on page 8. With these are the main stories on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning.
Junior civil servants may get 55,000 naira as Tinubu okays 25,000 naira allowance. That's the lead story on Sunday Punch. A couple of riders underneath. President says payment will last for 6 months only. Labour insists on strike. Tinubu begs, says pains temporary. Below that, we see 63 years on, Nigeria's many challenges remains unsolved. And we see a picture of former head of state and president Yakubu Gowon and Olusegun Obasanjo. Beside that, FG in talks with World Bank for fresh $1.5 billion loan. Do we still need more loans considering the situation that we are? Well, check that story on page 2. And also beside that, how I feel being born day Nigeria got independence, according to a female photographer who was also born on October 1st. At the top of the page, we see the editorial for the Sunday Punch. Nigeria at 63, search for nationhood still elusive. And at the bottom belt, we see Nigeria not worth dying for, says special sports athlete. And finally, Ondo, 17 choristers, abductors demand 50 million naira ransom. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Sunday Punch.
All right. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. Now, the Nation newspaper leads with the story that says Tinubu lists paid workers to get additional 25,000 naira for 6 months. You have the breakdown there from the President's speech earlier today. It talks about 25,000 naira increase on the minimum wage for the next 6 months. Talks about expanding the conditional cash transfer, the number of people to benefit now to 15 million. Talks about CNG efforts to provide facilities and infrastructure for the conversion of vehicles. Talks about appointments and so on, as excerpts from the President's speech. You also have another story above the masthead there. Tribunals uphold Abiodun's, Kefa's, Aliyu's elections in Ogun, Taraba and Sokoto. Gunmen abduct 25 worshippers in Ondo. These are the main stories on the Nation front page.
And for The Guardian on Sunday, atop the page we see Nigeria at 63, recovering lost hope. And also for the lead story, our dreams for Nigerian children tell Tinubu. Finally, time to serve God on big things and inside stuff. You find that at the back page.
Right. Now, that's that for the papers this morning. We'll be getting some perspectives now. We have, like we said, Baba Yusuf in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us on this special day.
Ayuba and Sagir. Happy Independence.
Happy Independence, of course.
Happy Independence to Nigerians.
Yes. Well, it appears that the president has some cheering news for Nigerians this morning in his speech when he announced an increase of 25,000 naira on the minimum wage, and that will last for the next 6 months. Should we be jubilating?
Well, to be honest, first of all, this year's independence, reflects a somber moment in the history of this country. The president emerged and is a president at a very critical time in the history of Nigeria. And therefore, along all the indices, things are not looking good. And it is ironic that he's giving a speech on today with the situations of things. I heard the 25,000 naira increment. I believe Mr. President has taken a first step. I'm expecting a feedback or a reaction by the labor union and organized labor with regards to that. I reckon there will be a lot of conversations with that. I expect a rejection by the unions to ask for more increase. And to be honest, if you ask me my opinion, personally, I think it's a very marginal increase, which is like a drop in the cup when you consider the cataclysmic impact of the socio-economic headwinds we are facing as a nation. Mm-hmm. And of course, part of what is lacking, or the gap or the silence I heard in the president's speech, is while we are talking about the numbers, 25,000, whether it is enough or not, but there's a large segment of society that he has not spoken to with regards to cost of living issues that are not within the net of the public service, or civil servants, or whatever you can call them. Because according to the Bureau for Public Service Reforms, the total number of civil servants in Nigeria as far as from last year, as at last year, is less than 1 million. But we have 80% of the populace, Ayuba and Sagir, that are 80% that operate in the informal sector. Okay? The small, medium scale, and the nano, small and medium scale enterprises, the organized private sector as well. Mm-hmm. Everybody is impacted. Of course, I continue saying it, and I will not have apology to say that these over 133 multidimensionally poor segment of the society are a chunk of them. Some of them are part of this informal sector. Mm. So I thought Mr. President will also, give a high level, nugget to them to continue renewing the hope of this large chunk of millions of Nigerians that are in dire need of this kind of support. That being said, he has made some critical remarks, which includes the 25,000 increment. At least it's a step beyond where we were as of yesterday.
All right, so I listened to the address of the president, and it's seeming like the key takeaway is, of course, the increment by 25,000 naira, and it would last for 6 months. Now, while that is going to be a temporary measure, stopgap measure in the interim, I believe the government wants to do, maybe put measures in place before that 6 months, and would expect whether that would increase or would become the new minimum wage. However, you spoke about people in the informal sector who unfortunately will not or might not be benefiting from this increment. And this makes me remember, you know, an incident that happened a couple of days ago. And of course, I know it's independence, but I have to bring it, you know, here in this conversation. So a couple of days ago, about 437 motorcycles were seized from you know, commercial motorcycle riders here in the FCT. Now, this means that 400 Nigerian youths, or over 400 of them, have found themselves out of job without a source of livelihood. And bearing in mind that they are not going to be benefiting in any way, you know, from this increment. What picture does this paint with regards to where we are going and how we intend to get there?
You know, I also saw that news and I felt very sad. The leaders at national and subnational should be sensitive and should have some sense of compassion and should be more strategic and more widen their scope of the concept of good governance. While we want to tidy up our streets, our towns and all that, we also need to take into cognizance some of these critical factors. I think sequencing the action points is very important in order to achieve the overall socio-economic objective. Now you take out, Sagir is not 436 youth. It's 436 families. So and you can take a rule of thumb and multiply by how many average families, because these young people represent families. They are feeding, there are people that depend on them to bring the income, gentlemen. And to that extent, that is how huge the impact could be. And of course, like you said, they will be out of job for a while. Apart from the social impact, which subset of the social impact is the psychological, emotional, and mental impact on these families, not just individuals, as the case may be. So I think while these things are going on, leaders as subnational, for example, the Minister of FCT, should consider the overall, you know, objectives, you know, while trying to do this, take these action points and get some quick wins so that it will not backfire on our polity.
You know, the president in his speech also started off saying that the nation belongs to all of us. And he started with a call to all compatriots to join hands to see themselves as stakeholders in this journey or in this country called Nigeria. And my mind goes back to an incident also that happened a few days ago where we had the brawl at the Ministry of Works, where the minister went there earlier and ordered that the gates to the ministry be locked for latecomers to work. And we saw the drama that happened. The workers protested, even demanding an apology from the minister. In fact, and a lot of reactions trailed that incident. People were saying, why would you be demanding for an apology when clearly you are wrong? And in their own argument, they say, well, looking at the hardship in the country right now, the minister has no justification to do what he did. They're saying things along the line that some of them are on the edge, trying to make ends meet despite the difficulties and everything, and he's doing this and all that. How do you think that the current state of the nation impacts on the patriotism of Nigerians, and commitment to work and to see that this nation moves forward?
I'm also, just like I said, taking the question from Sagir earlier, leaders need to be sensitive to the environment, and you apply the strategies of sensing, influencing, depending on the situation. You apply the strategy of assertion or aggression depending on the situation. This situation we are in this country requires that leaders apply the strategy of sensing and influencing.
Right. And
to have a foresight while you are going about, trying to show that you are somebody that is a change agent. Right. You can't be a transformative agent when the people you want to change are not in tune and do not share the vision or do not share the sensitivities of you as a leader. Right. They feel they are bearing the brunt and you are bawling for want of a better word, and you have this sense of entitlement to demand for them what you have not been able to provide for. Now, the argument of the staff, some of them, like you rightly said, is that the current situation has pushed people to the wall. People even have to squeeze to look for money to transfer themselves to the office. You understand? And the challenges of even transportation and the logistics and all that. And they are saying, how could you?
But is that enough justification, Baba Yusuf?
You see,
that's
it's the thing. I tell you why.
We need an order in the system, isn't it?
For you to have an order, Ayuba, you must have the fundamentals. You cannot create sanity out of chaos. Okay? We have to listen to those people. I'm not justifying late coming.
Of course.
But I'm as an apostle of justice, fairness, and equity. He who goes for equity should go with clean hands. We know for a fact that the generality of the civil service needs serious reforms. No. Late coming is not just an issue of junior staff, even top echelon come late. But the thing is, when you want to bring change, cultural change is one of the most difficult things to do, Sagira and Ayuba. And it must start with the foundation laying, with the pillar setting. Otherwise, the structure you are going to build will not stand. And you can see the pushback. He cannot work alone, the Honorable Minister. He has to work with these people. So the first thing to do is to identify the critical fundamental issues and deal with them. And then later you can apply the strategy of assertion. But if people are cringing under these vagaries, of course it's not justification for them to come late. But I think when you come to a location, the first thing to do, like I said in the forum 2 weeks ago, is situational analysis. When you do a situational analysis, you get the people that you use to influence that change, but that should start from you, not just by coming to work early, but doing the right things for people to buy in. When you get buy-in, people will suck in. But now it's like you are swimming against tide. Labor Union is going on strike in the next couple of days. You can see why these people are pushing back, whether rightly or wrongly.
So I was going to mention that, and it's a good thing that you concluded by saying that, because during the president's address, I know you watched it keenly, and we didn't hear anything about the organized labor and whether the federal government have come, to some sort of agreement with them pertaining to the strike. So, but then again, there's still the case of the increment. I mean, even though it's temporary. So what do you expect or project, in the coming days? They said they're starting on the 3rd, nationwide strike, indefinite, a complete and total shutdown, which might mean that a lot of services might not be available for Nigerians, and at the end of the day, Nigerians might end up feeling the brunt of all of this. So is this increment and is this measure enough to, in the interim, just assuage a little bit of some of the pressures that the Labour have been putting on the federal government?
Well, Mr. President, I think because, let's get this thing, addressing the nation on the day of independence or democracy day is normally supposed to be a high level. 15 minutes, 12 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on the president. But it should be bullet points, compact, speak to the critical issues. And if you dimension his speech, Mr. President, he started by, appealing to the sense of purpose of Nigerians. That's how I coined the feedback. He is appealing to the sense of purpose of Nigerians, talking about unity, talking about diversity and all that. And then move forward to reel out his scorecards. He has moved from speaking about in future tense in the last early days of his administration to speak in present tense, what I have done, and what people are supposed to expect in the coming days, talking about his renewal of agenda and all that. But speaking particularly to the Labour, I think he strategic or tactically moved away from that so that he wouldn't make them a subject matter, but threw in the 25,000 to say, hey, I have something for you as a nugget. Moving in the next couple of days, but I believe
on this for a little bit.
Yes, exactly. I believe that in the next 1 or 2 days, the reaction of the Labour will at least serious, robust conversation to avoid and avert this strike. Because if it happens, it's going to be very, very bad for us. We are tired of this, bring a brack. I believe government should engage Labour, and so that we can have a robust framework for the next 6 months, short to mid-term, so that they can be waiting for that time, Nigerians can be waiting for that time, and Mr. President and his team will have time to be sure-footed in delivering what they promised Nigerians.
Right, so a lot of expectations in the coming days with regards to implementation on some of the things that the President itemized and mentioned during his address, including a reduction in the cost of transportation when the new set of CNG buses, are infused and injected into the system. However, let's digress from that a little bit, because of course we're talking about the state, of the nation. And now let's talk about security. So on the heels of October 1st, today, we saw what happened in Zamfara State. And so far, since the last week or so since it's happened, not much has been heard about efforts to recover the abducted girls from their abductors. So does this paint a good picture, seeing that we might be coming back to the days of massive abductions of school students? How do you think this affects, the psychology of the students and their parents who are around these areas that are prone to these attacks? And remember that these issues might be escalated, seeing the tensions that have been brewing, atop the northern ceiling. I'm talking about what's going on in Niger, the border closure, and a lot of people going through a lot of challenges owing to the fact that they can no longer do trans-border trade between Nigeria and Niger. How do you see this adding to the pressures? And do you see some sort of commitment on the side of the government to ensure that these issues are brought, are addressed to at least douse these tensions and reduce the pressures?
In fact, part of what I wanted to give as feedback to the speech of Mr. President is I noted somewhere 4 critical points he did not speak to that I believe would have made a lot of sense for us. And fundamentally, I wanted him to have, firstly, on insecurity, because it is the nexus of how this government will have traction and move forward. It is the platform, security will be the platform upon which any developmental strides will be able to be even possible. So I expected that to be dealt with along with other issues, education and others. So now that being said, like you said, build up to that. Don't forget, even days before that, the attack of the military officers and the killing of, the downing of the military aircraft in Niger, the killing of those military officers in Niger. The list goes on and on. And it's like there's an escalation in the past 1 month. In the southeast, we saw what happened in Imo and all that. So I expected Mr. President to be to take some minutes to speak about insecurity, to speak to it and talk about plans of what will come. Like you talked about the psychology, not just of the parents, but the entire nation. I saw Ayuba, in the last couple of weeks traversing the Northwest. You're doing a lot of work there. And thank God you are back safe and sound, but only God knows what you saw during, those, your tour of assignment. And this is the situation we are in. You talked about the closure of the border, which is impacting seriously over 15 billion naira weekly, according to Northern Economic Forum and all that. So I hope Mr. President will have, if there is none, or tweak that strategy and have some tactical moves, for us to see some quick wins with regards to this insecurity, to gain grounds across the geopolitical zones, because it appears for every geopolitical zone now, there's an escalation and it's looking bad. We have food insecurity already, impacting, on the other, adding to the other issues we have. So price of food will increase and add to the inflation. So I hope and pray that Mr. President will look into this critically and quickly. Otherwise, the entire governor's framework will continue to be a threat, will continue to be an issue, and gains that will be made will be negated. So
let's talk about something else. So during his address, he also mentioned the special investigative panel that's currently doing an investigation on the activities, sort of an audit on the activities of the Central Bank of Nigeria in the last 8 years. And in the manner that he spoke, it seems like an admittance, sort of, that things went wrong for a couple of years at the CBN, talking about some of the accusations, the back and forth, and all of the issues that, that came up before, during, and after the 2023 election. So I want to hear your thoughts on his statement with regards to the CBN. Is this an admittance that the CBN, in one way or the other, is complicit to some of the economic challenges that we are facing currently?
Mr. President is just taking the right steps in the right direction because it's a reflection of what we all know. Any child that is conscious of his or herself in the last 9 months or 8 months knows about the Emefiele experimentation that has impacted seriously, negatively on the polity. People died, people lost their senses, people were running naked. It has never happened in the history of this country due to some very draconian and senseless policies. And then the slime we are hearing from within the CBN. So it's a step in the right direction. We expect that kind of cleansing to take place, and that is ongoing. What remains to be seen is not about what happened. What remains to be seen is what will be done going forward, because we've seen this kind of steps taken before for other institutions and other administrations, and then you end up having the worst of times than what you actually saw before. So there are steps in the right direction so far. We are waiting to see the new leadership of CBN, how they are going to take the mantle, how they are going to deal with this. And then, importantly, what is lacking mostly in the administration, in the last few administrations of Nigeria, consequence management. We don't have consequence management. We don't have performance management. So somebody has done something. What will be the outcome? So that people will be deterred from doing that same thing going forward. You know, that is very important as we progress as a nation. You reward performance, you reward excellence, you reward good behavior, and then there should be consequence management for indolence, for criminality, and for corruption.
All right. Well, as of today, we are talking about the naira to the dollar exchange rate crossing the 1,000 naira mark that Nigerians thought will never be.
Honestly.
You know, but here we are, even before the December deadline that some financial experts have projected. We are already having that, you know, happen. And to that effect, the president didn't really touch on that as much, you know, per se, but he said something along the lines of monetary policy shall henceforth be for the benefit of all and not for exclusive province of powerful and wealthy. In this same country, in the past administration, we've heard stories about how people make trillions out of the whole, you know, exchange rates thing and everything. So do you see the president walking the talk in this regard? We really need some dollars right now.
I am one of the people that were projecting naira to dollar. We are projecting the December target. So Ayuba, you are right. We are already crossing the 1,000 naira borderline. Only God knows what will happen in December, because traditionally, by December, dollar spikes up because of the holidays and all that. So it's a very, you know, sorry situation we find ourselves. Walking the talk for me, for Mr. President, is I need to see there's a lot of conversation. I commend Mr. President, a lot of steps he has taken to show people that he's ready to show the citizens, but we need to see quintessential leadership with regards to that from the top. I keep on repeating it. Like you rightly say, we need a lot of dollars. How do we get it? All these monies we are hearing that have been fretted away, for example, in CBN and other institutions, how are we able to get some quick wins of recovering them? Because those are quick impacts. You know, as soon as they are returned into the system, they have whatever impact it is on the economy. Secondly, for us to see going forward that the government at the top, all arms of government from the top, cut down the cost of governance. All right? And we want to see an end. Luckily enough, Mr. President will present his first budget. We want to see an end to budget padding immediately, where we see on record over 200 or 200% of the cost of capital projects are added as budget padding. These all have impact on our value of our currency and our fiscal policy. And like I said earlier in other forums, the monetary policy impacts will not be felt immediately unless the strategy goes pari passu fiscal policy. They have to go together. Otherwise, a CBN, for example, will be doing all the monetary policy magic, but the fiscal discipline that is lacking will erode whatever value that will be gained on the monetary side. So, I mean, it makes sense Mr. President has the Presidential Committee on Tax Reform, within which we have the CBN represented, we have the FIRS represented. Fantastic. But then, within the overall governance framework, we need to see those actions that will cut down the cost of governance, that will impact on our polity going forward. And of course, return those monies that have been stolen.
Aside the cutting down of the cost of governance, also experts have talked about we need to increase production and exports, to have more dollars in circulation in the system. But it appears that that's more of a long-term, kind of an idea or a project. So what can we do, like in the short term, like immediately?
And that's what you wanted to ask.
Okay, so in addition to that, there's also the issue of the size of the current administration, talking about the cabinet and the total number of ministers being the largest in recent times, 45 ministers. If we're talking about the cost of governance, aren't we supposed to be talking about the reduction, in those who make up the Federal Executive Council?
Fantastic question. I'll answer Ayuba's wonderful question also. That's why I was hampering on the quick wins earlier on, because the only way that there will be sustainability, there will be a turnaround of economy, is you catalyze the productive sector. No way out of it. We have to deal that. But it's a medium to long term, whatever. And like an African adage, it is with the water in your stomach that you draw the water out of the well. Okay? So we need to have these first steps, quick wins, for us to say, then you will build that. Mr. President is just coming back from UNGA. He was in G20. He was in UAE trying to bring in investment commitments that will also be having short to mid-term impacts the dollars. But then also those people will not come if insecurity is not addressed, for example. So it's a tough job for Mr. President, and it has to be holistic. Now, adding to that, part of the quick wins is this in conversations. Mr. President has taken his decision, the largest and the biggest Federal Executive Council, possibly in the entire world, possibly in the continent. That being said, how he can remedy that if that position, I reckon, is a political exigency thing to do, is to have a very, very cost-efficient, cost-conscious government. Yesterday, I saw, a statistics of the costs of having these numbers of ministers we have, in terms of the aids, in terms of the vehicles, in terms of...
Can you share some of these numbers with us?
I actually don't have it with me, but the aids are running into thousands of aids. The vehicles are running into billions, and if that is the case, then these numbers that he has done, he may not be able to justify within the framework of what we are facing today as a nation. So like I said earlier, and like you always say, every Nigerian is talking about waiting to see that which the government is saying done at the top. That will engender confidence. That will engender trust. For example, if Mr. President says, I'm shedding off weight, by letting go of this, letting go of that, it is natural that every other person within that government frame will follow suit. And I believe that will impact in the behavior and the manner government is run, which is going to scale down the cost of governance, and also not just from the cost of running the office, but the cost of governance from even contracts and all that at the end of the day.
Okay, so I would like for us to just digress just a little bit, talking about Nigeria's unity and progress so far made. We are coming out of a 2023 general elections that a lot of people feel disgruntled about and dissatisfied with the outcome. And for some of them, the idea of working for Nigeria or putting Nigeria first or, doing something for my country and not me expecting anything is just not there yet. So how do we get Nigerians to have more confidence on the system? Talking about electoral reforms, for instance, we have a situation where the declaration of winners of election now seem to be gradually moving from the polling units to the courts. And so far, a lot of people are not satisfied with how the courts have done in terms of delivering certain judgments. We've had several judgments that, really, some people are really not very, very optimistic about the judiciary doing right by the Nigerian people.
Very important question, Ayuba. And it is reflecting in how Nigerians are feeling. Maybe that is why you see people not bothering to go to work and all that. The psychological impact of what is going on is huge, Ayuba and Segir. And government needs to show the consciousness of that beyond the mantra. we still have one layer of a judiciary action with regards to the presidential election. But we can see clearly that people are not happy with the judiciary. The judiciary has not been able to assert itself from the point of view of the clarity of thought in delivering some of this judgment with due respect to the jurists. And I believe that electoral reform is a critical success factor to the evolution of Nigeria going forward, along with other, factors. But that is what will actually consolidate our democracy. We just got a new president, the 7th president since 1999. But you can see the apathy even from the voting pattern, during this past election. People are losing hope on democracy. People are losing hope on our leaders because, first of all, if the electoral process is not trusted by the people, they will not respect the leaders. And if the process is also not okay, we'll get the wrong leaders, the wrong people at the helm of affairs. And of course, because of that, with the sense of entitlement, they will not deliver the dividends of democracy. Sagir, Ayuba, 63 years of independence is what we are celebrating. A giant of Africa that we call ourselves. However, if you do a peer review of countries that got independence around the same time, other part of the world, we are far lagging behind in many ways than you can think of. And more than that, we have a situation whereby, I'm ashamed, to be honest, you have presidents and governors that will be going to commission projects. A president will go and commission a 20-kilometer, 10-kilometer project at this time, and we are celebrating people for doing their job, not for doing anything extra.
Yes.
And then when you check the cost of commissioning those projects, almost the same as the cost of, doing the project. So to be honest, electoral reform is a very critical pillar of our democratic structure.
A lot of people say, well, celebrate Nigeria as largest democracy in Africa and so on. We hear all that cliche all the time. But then when you think about it, is democracy all about winning an election alone? Or, the president mentioned that the fact that we had the 7th democratic transition since, the Fourth Republic from 1999 till date. Beyond just conducting elections, can we really say that the tenets of democracy really are being reflected in the processes that we run?
No, it's not. There's a lot of room for improvement. And if I borrow the time of late Umar Musa Yar'Adua, who agreed that there were issues and took concrete steps to address them, I hope Mr. President will do the same. Because that, also to add to that, we need a critical review of our constitution. This constitution needs to be properly reviewed. We need to have a democracy also that suits our peculiarity. This rubber stamp, cut and paste democracy we are using will not take us anywhere. Maybe that is why we are not seeing the impact. I'm an apostle of going back to the regional government. I'm an apostle of true federalism from the point of view of having a regional government that will be more impactful and all that. So electoral reform, constitutional reform or review, and even the democratic model itself, Nigerians should look at it so that we can have the right people emerging as leaders to make the necessary impact, so that the people also will be able to do the right thing for us to have the right leaders in Nigeria.
All right, well, thank you so much for your thoughts, Baba Yusuf, really. Each time you're here, it's always a very impactful conversation. We look forward to having you on the program again. Unfortunately, we have to go now.
Thank you very much, Ayuba Sagir. Thank you, Nigerians, once again. Happy independence. We pray for a better country. It is our country, and we pray that we will do the right thing in action. We are a prayerful nation, but we need to be more godly, and we need to act properly. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, Baba Yusuf is a strategist, policy analyst, and CEO of Global Investment and Trade Company. With that, we'll take a short breather. When we return, our special coverage continues. Join us again.
Sumaya Abubakar, stick around as you get to win prizes when you successfully answer the trivia questions. But before then, Bunny Boy is a tale of an 18-year-old Nigerian who traveled from faraway Lagos State to Maiduguri. In this interview, Niyi Ayola Daniels, also known as the Bunny Boy, tells us how the intervention and compassion of the alkali who presided over his case in a Sharia court after he was falsely accused of theft saved him from mob action and possibly death. Take a look.
In 1983, while I was in secondary school, I was doing my A-levels in secondary school. I was doing my A-levels, and I was the second half of the A-level, that's the upper six. And at that time, my elder brother and my sister, they were students of University of Maiduguri. At that time, my elder brother had actually graduated, while my sister was still a student at that University of Maiduguri. And back home then, University of Maiduguri was a darling university. Every one of us at home as Yorubas living in Lagos, even though I was born in Abeokuta, but I grew up in Lagos. The university that we all wanted to go to, particularly myself, was University of Maiduguri. And it was obvious, the reason was obvious. My brother and my sister, they made me to know how beautiful the university was, how the university took great care in ensuring that the students were well taken care of, and everything was beautiful. They kept telling me beautiful stories of Maiduguri as a peaceful town, beautiful stories of the university. As a matter of fact, the common parlance then, at home then, if you want to be made, you've got to come to University of Maiduguri. And I wanted to be made, you know, so that was all that was on my mind. And of course, I also used to see them fly Nigeria Airways from Lagos to Maiduguri to go to school at the University of Maiduguri. So one day, my father just called me and said, oh, look, Niyi, you'll be traveling to Maiduguri to go deliver money to your sister. Your sister needed money urgently, and she couldn't come due to a lot of academic pressures on her. So you have to travel to University of Maiduguri. I was so elated. I said, wow, finally I'm going to fly by Nigeria Airways, because at that time I'd not been on a plane before. So I was so excited. I said, okay, now I'm going to fly to Maiduguri. I've always wanted to go to Maiduguri. I love to see that university, that great university, because I wanted to be made to. But my father dampened my enthusiasm and said that, look, Niyi, this time around, you are not going to fly to Maiduguri. You are going to go by train to Maiduguri. I said, Daddy, why? He said, look, Niyi, I want you to know Nigeria. You were born in Abeokuta. You grew up in Lagos. You probably thought that there are only two states in Nigeria, Ogun State and Lagos State. But Nigeria is a lot bigger than that. So I want you to know Nigeria. And the best way through which you can know Nigeria is to travel by train. I boarded the train from Lagos, Ido Terminal. We moved Lagos, Abeokuta, Ibadan, Oshogbo, Mokwa, Bida, Jeba. We kept going. We kept going. Kafanchan. We kept going. Everything was fine. I was able to see the vision that my father had for me to really see Nigeria, because I was able to interact with different people. Different people came on board the train, some left. I was able to have real exchange of interaction, communication, relationships, meeting people from different parts of the country. I met military cadets who were going to NDA. We talked. In fact, some of them joked. They said, oh, you hope to be a lawyer? I said, yeah, I've always wanted to be a lawyer. They said, even in the military, we need lawyers in the military. I told them my mother would not allow me to join the military. But it was great. Everything was going fine until something all of a sudden happened that changed the entire narratives. A woman entered the train. I was carrying a lot of money. Somehow, my my trouser protruded, it was evident there was a lot of money that this young boy, this young man was carrying. And of course, I was also naive. It showed that I had never been on that kind of journey before. From the questions I was asking, from me tasting kilishi for the first time at that time. So I was excited. In fact, I told my dad, I told myself that I'll buy kilishi also for my dad, that he needs to taste kilishi, because this is one of my takeaway from this trip. But all of a sudden, the woman saw the money on me and then conceived a plan. The plan was to actually make me to force me to release that money to her. And how did she try to achieve that? She went to tell the policemen who were the escort of the train that this man who sat beside her stole her money while she was asleep. So the policeman came to me and they told me that, look, a report was brought against you that you stole the money belonging to this woman. I said, I stole money? They said, yes, that this is what the report or the accusation leveled against you by the woman. I told the policeman, I said, yes, I had a lot of money on me, but this money was given to me by my father. And I had a letter to show everything concerning this money. The letter captured my purpose of the journey from Lagos to Maiduguri, where I was going, and my sister that I needed to see, and all of that. But policemen, they refused to believe me. Before I knew what was happening, I received hot slaps. And not only that, the policeman hit me with the butt of the gun, seeking to make me to make confessional statement for an offense that I did not commit. I was able to gather courage, and I told the policeman that, look, I was taught as a student that whenever there's a dispute of this nature between two people, the arm of government that should resolve that dispute should be the court. I said, we'll go to court. So I was forced to come down at Buni Railway Terminal. That is the reason for the title of my book, Buni Boy. The boy that came down at that Buni Railway Terminal. We came down, a lot of crowd have already gathered. Before I knew it, virtually everybody in the village knew what was going on. That a Yoruba boy had been arrested for stealing money belonging to somebody in that village, and I was locked up in the cell, in the police cell, for some days, and eventually I was charged to a court, to an alkali court, and here it is where the beauty of Nigeria diversity emerged. Now this alkali judge, he kept looking at me when I tried to talk, because the language of communication in the court was Hausa, and I could not speak Hausa. I do not understand Hausa. I tried to explain. My voice kept shaking. But the alkali surprised me. Instead of using that his authority to intimidate me, he used it to protect me from the mob psychology. Because outside, there were the out-of-school children, the Almajiri, who, to them, why waste time with this Yoruba boy? You have already caught him for stealing. Let us do jungle justice to him. The Almajiri out-of-school children, they considered themselves as maybe the witness, the accuser, the judge, and the executioner at the same time. So, but I bless God for the life of that alkali who shielded me. God bless the alkali. Then all of a sudden, when I least expected it, I just heard the alkali look at me directly and he said, Adeni. I said, sir. Adeni. Said, calm down, calm down. Tell me exactly what happened on the train. I was very shocked because I never expected that the alkali could speak English, because he did not dress up like an English judge. He wore this kind of kanuri cap, and he wore a babariga. So and the village was so remote. I didn't know that he could speak English, clear English. That English that the alkali spoke gave me hope. It was like lifesaver for me. That's how the alkali ordered 2 new sets of policemen to go to Lagos. And as I was later told, the alkali used his own money to sponsor that trip. The alkali taught me the values of the strength in Nigeria's diversity. It taught me that we all belong to the common humanity of God, regardless of tribe, regardless of religion, regardless of culture, regardless of language, that we all belong to the commonwealth of humanity, and that we should be each brother's our brother's keeper. That is the lesson, the great lesson that alkali taught me. It taught me that humanity knows no tribe. Humanity knows no religion. Humanity knows no dialect. Humanity is truth in action. Humanity is justice. Justice is humanity. And that was how the policemen went to Lagos to trace my father. And they traced my father. He was able to show them a carbon copy of that letter that he gave to me. More than that, he recorded the serial number of the Naira notes that he gave to me. Perhaps he did that maybe out of instinct, by virtue of his own trading. With that direct positive evidence, they brought that report, that proof of evidence to the alkali, and alkali used that to explain the fact that justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. Because if the alkali had not ordered the policemen to go to Lagos to go and obtain evidence to prove my innocence, he would have run into trouble with the mob outside, the crowd, because they would not know the reason for releasing me. So he needed to make justice not only to be done, but to be seen to be done. Nigeria is a country of great promise, and that the strength of Nigeria lies in our diversity, in the unity of the country, and that we should use this this Independence Day celebration to recognize the fact that yes, we have different challenges here and there currently going on, but the greatness of Nigeria will emerge when we begin to appreciate the diversity in our unity, and that the strength of Nigeria and the greatness of Nigeria lies in us appreciating that diversity in our unity and the strength of that diversity. Now, another lesson here for Nigerians is that, just like one former American president said, do not think more of what your country can do for you. Think of what you also can do for your country.
As the review officer arrived, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kano State, Engineer Abubakar Yusuf, the parade commander is coming forward to seek permission from the Excellency for the rest of the parade. His Excellency, going forward, together with the overall parade commander, the Superintendent of Police, Hussein Adam, for inspection of this historical, memorable and beautiful parade, the 1st October parade.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as you can rightly see, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kano State, Engineer Abubakar Yusuf, Upper Kanawa, Upper Kidaka, already on this very special vehicle, a ceremonial vehicle, with the parade commander arranged for him first to go around and see for himself the detachment of the officers already at hand as enumerated by the Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Police Post Kano Command, Abdullahi Kiawa, for him to see them, to appreciate them, and indeed to say we thank you so much as we remain ever grateful for the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala been wanting us to be alive to be on our feet, to witness this auspicious occasion that marks Nigeria at 63 from 1960 to that. So happy His Excellency is, as you can rightly see from afar, the officers are there, very close to the detachment of these officers. Yes, immediately after this, we shall also witness the color parades by these officers at hand. It's a great tradition every year for our country, Nigeria, to remember the day our forefathers fought for Nigerian demonstrations, for Nigeria, and learns to be what it is before we are independent. But today we are independent of our own, and like you see.
Thank you. During these studies, Nigerians and Nigeria celebrate all over the country. Of course, these celebrations do not start but it started since last week with various activities. In the one during the Independence Day celebrations, there was Independence Anniversary lecture on the challenges of education in Kano State and the way forward. This one was done on Friday, 29 September 2023 at the World Nation Hall, Government House. Today, the two of the activities is the review of the Independence Day parade by His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kano State, Engineer Abubakar Yusuf. After today's activity, here at Sani Abacha Stadium, today, 1st October, 63rd Independence Day of Nigeria, 1st October 2023. It will be marked with another series of activities and events today of celebration across all sectors of the city. Similarly, there will be another important program after today's program, which is visitation by His Excellency to various places. That one will be on Monday, 2nd October 2023. Day of such events include Nasarawa Children's Home, Pulmawa Correctional Home, and also Murtala Mohammed Specialist Hospital here in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this very important activity as Nigerians and Nigeria celebrate third independence of Nigeria. The record historically, the Nigerian with an estimated population of over 200 million is the largest black nation in the world. The Federal Republic of Nigeria, as it is officially known, covers an area of 356,669 square miles on the coast of West Africa. It is bordered and comprising the Federal Republic of Cameroon to the east, the Niger Republic to the north, the Benin Republic to the east. In the northeast, Nigeria has a 54-mile border with the Republic of Chad. That is the Gulf of Guinea coastline stretches more than 500 miles from Badagry in the west to Calabar in the east and includes the
Excellency, the Vice President, standing on existing protocol, while expecting the arrival of the special guest of honor, President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, we want to take a synoptic look at the history behind the Change of Guard parade that we're going to witness today. Now, the Change of Guard ceremony dates back to the colonial era, when the British colonial masters introduced the ceremony as an avenue to demonstrate the reliability and preparedness of their soldiers. Now, the ceremony then involved the formal relief of the old colonial guard by the new set, symbolizing the seamless transition of duties and responsibilities. At Nigeria's independence on 1st October 1960, the routine change of guard between the old and new colonial guards was replaced by the change of guard between the old British colonial guard and the new Nigerian Armed Forces Guard. And since then, the change of guard parade remained a routine parade between the old and the new security guards at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, this institutionalizing professionalism in the Nigerian Army. To an appreciable extent, the troops are highly trained, very well equipped, disciplined, and highly motivated towards achieving the constitutional role and responsibilities. Now, the change of guard ceremony routinely takes place at military installations, national landmarks, and official events. It involves a meticulously choreographed drill performed by soldiers of the Nigerian Armed Forces and usually attracts the attention of spectators and officials alike. The change of guard parade is known for its precision, discipline, and attention to details. It showcases the training, skills, and military bearing of the personnel participating in the ceremony. Above all, the parade and the actual change of the guards are designed to create rest and relief for troops on security duty. The importance of rest and relief during military operations cannot be overemphasized, as both factors are prerequisites for force effectiveness and efficiency. End of that synoptic look of the history behind change of guards parade. Band, some more musical interlude, please, while we expect the arrival of the special guest of honor band. Thank you. Thank you, band. Thank you. Scintillating, entertaining, rhythmic. Thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Your Excellencies, former President, former Vice President here present, the distinguished Senate President, the Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Lordship, the Chief Justice, distinguished honorable members of the National Assembly here present, honorable members of the Federal Executive Council, the Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs, Inspector General of Police, very senior military officers, both serving and disably retired, Your Royal Highnesses, my Lord spiritual and temporal, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, we can hear from the arena of the quarter guard some orders there indicating that any moment from now, the special guest of honor, President Commander-in-Chief of our great nation, Nigeria, will be entering the arena, presidentially, that is. It is the abridged version of the weekly presidential change of guard parade holding here at the forecourts of the Presidential Villa, Abuja, where ceremonies commemorating the 63 independence anniversary is taking place. The bugle is quite loud, sound, and tells us that the special guest